Home sellers, a couple of tips here for you. Here are 10 seller mistakes that if you are listing your home for sale, you will want to make an effort to avoid. Probably the very first is bad photography. Remember, the overwhelming majority of people are searching for their homes online. If the pictures of your house don't make it look great, don't put its best foot forward, you are doing yourself an incredible disservice. So make sure you pay for professional photography. It's really not that much money. In most cases, you can do it for $250. So don't ignore the pictures. Second thing, obviously, overpricing your home. Don't do that. You bring the wrong buyers in, people who wouldn't buy that home even if it were 10% less or 15% less because they already live in a house like that and they're looking to buy a nicer house. So don't overprice your house egregiously. A little tiny bit, maybe, depends on the market, but don't get crazy with asking a way higher number than what you know the market will bear. Another thing that sellers often overlook, and I admit this is a hard one, is keeping your house neat and tidy. Keeping the beds made, keeping the towels fresh, making sure it doesn't smell like the dog, all of those things, keeping it clean when you are showing. Because if you're living there, it can be very difficult to do, but it's important. You want, again, to have your best foot forward when people come for showings to see your home. Another thing is look at your house critically as far as things that maybe need to be repaired. If there are cracks in the walls that need to be painted or pieces of baseboard that are all chipped and raggedy looking. Now this one's tough because everything's on a continuum. I'm not suggesting that if you look at your kitchen and you say, yeah, it's pretty dated, that you should turn around and spend $75,000 redoing your kitchen, because you will not recoup that. I'm talking about improvements or repairs that will generate good return on your investment. And those things are things that your agent should be able to help you determine which things make sense to do, which things don't. So paint is one of the things that really can give you a very good return on your investment. Definitely talk to your agent about which things you should address. Now, another thing that is important and often overlooked, here's a good seller mistake. Don't be too emotionally invested. We get it. This is your home. It's where you live. There's probably a certain pride of place, and it's somewhere you have loved being. But this is not about you and your family. You want to present your home in a sort of neutral way so that the largest potential buyer pool can envision themselves living there. And if somebody gives you an offer and it's lower than you want, or they say, we want a credit for carpets, and you love those carpets, just try not to take it personally. This is a business transaction, so try not to be too emotionally invested. Another big mistake, sellers often are not clear on what their costs are associated to selling. They may know that they have their commission, but there's also, at least where I live, 1% state transfer tax. There are some other small fees. There's a use and occupancy certificate. There are some small title fees for the seller. So just make sure you talk to your agent at the beginning to understand clearly what your fees will be, because what you're really concentrating on is your net proceeds, what you walk away from, not necessarily the purchase price. So make sure you're clear on what the fees are. Don't make showings difficult. Too many sellers put all of these caveats. Well, you can only show between this time and this time, or not on this day. And while I understand it may be difficult if you have an infant who sleeps, or you have something else at certain days of the week, it can be hard. But remember that every time you say no to a showing, you risk having that buyer find another property that was available to be shown that day and put a bid on it and never even see yours. So really try hard to make it easy to show your property. Get back to your agent or the showing desk if it's done by a showing service quickly when a showing is requested, and always try to say yes if at all possible. Sellers, please disclose A lot of sellers make the mistake of not disclosing things, sometimes because they aren't thinking hard enough about what problems did we have? Didn't we have a pipe that leaked, or didn't we have, something? So sometimes it's not purposeful, but do try hard to think about everything you should be disclosing, and definitely don't try to hide anything. If you had a leak or something happened, please disclose it. Don't overlook the other terms of an offer besides the price. Price isn't everything. Settlement date, contingencies, whether somebody is willing to forego any of the deposit if they walk away, whether someone is willing to absorb a certain amount of inspection issues. There are things other than the price that can make a difference. A rent back might make a huge difference to someone. So don't just look at the number. This one might not necessarily be considered a mistake, but let's say it this way. It's not necessarily a mistake not to do a pre-listing inspection, but I would say it's a mistake not to think about doing one. So a pre-listing inspection will make sure that you know everything that might be discovered by a buyer, and it allows you to get in front of it, address or repair any of the things that you think make sense to repair, and otherwise disclose the rest of them, and just understand that offer prices will reflect if there needs to be a new air conditioning system put in, or there needs to be a new roof put on. It's better to know going in than to get an offer and then find out later that you have to make repairs or greatly reduce the amount of money you're going to be getting for the house. I'm sure that there are plenty of other seller mistakes. I alone have heard lots of stories from people I've worked with who have talked about mistakes they've made, but those are 10 of the most common, and I think not necessarily the easiest to do, but the ones that will have the greatest effect on you having the smoothest transaction and getting the most amount of money for your house in the least amount of time.